Hi, it's Catherine again. Hi from Cambridge, and welcome to the Cambridge Legal English podcast. Rachel and I are going to talk about a topic very close to my heart, music copyright. All copyright's close to my heart because I write textbooks and then people copy them. So copyright is a big issue for me. And if you want to be an intellectual property lawyer and work with copyright, patent and all that kinds of thing, this should be interesting for you. This one hurts me a little bit because Taylor Swift gets accused of something that I don't like, but see what you think. Stay to the end with us to learn as much as possible, and I will see you in the next one. Hello again.
Hello.
Today's topic is quite a nice one. I think you're going to like it.
I'm excited.
But you know I never make your life easy, Rachel.
No.
I'm going to ask you to guess what the topic is.
How wonderful.
Based on two very short clips of music. So let's listen to those two short clips and then you can tell me what I'm going to talk about.
Okay.
Ready? Go.
Players gonna play, and the haters gonna hate, baby. I'm just gonna shake it off, shake it off. Players they gon' play, and haters they gonna hate.
What do you think today's topic is, having listened to those lovely bits of music?
Is it music copyright?
Of course it is. We're going to jump into the world of intellectual property and specifically some interesting disputes that have come to court about music copyright. So just to put this in some kind of context before we listen to some examples, copyright in the UK means a creator's right in a work. That's what the law calls it. If it's a play, a song, a book, a photograph, you call it a work with a capital W.
Okay.
And copyright is the exclusive right of the creator to profit from and use that work.
Okay.
And in the UK, it's an automatic right. You don't have to register it anywhere.
Okay. I take
That's
it
a bit...
it's different in other places?
I'm not sure, but I know in the USA they do have a copyright office. And it's not compulsory to register your copyright with them. But they say it does help if you go to court later that you did that.
See.
But copyright, as soon as you finished writing your novel or writing your song, legally it's yours and you have legal protection.
Okay.
If it's truly an original creation.
Interesting. Okay.
It's quite, I don't know, what is truly an original
Yeah. It's one
creation?
of those do you remember when we did the law of tort and we talked about reasonable height on drones?
We did.
It's very
yeah.
much that sort of same
Yeah.
weird grey area that I'm
It-
learning is very
yeah.
prevalent.
It's very prevalent in law, but that's lucky for lawyers. It's
Yeah.
how they make their money. They can say, this is a grey area, and that's when it starts getting expensive.
Yeah.
So, Taylor Allison Swift, I've got to declare immediately I've got a bias in this case because I like her very, very much, and I can't believe that she would do anything bad.
No.
So the accusation that she had infringed copyright came from two musicians. I've got their names, Sean Hall and Nathan Butler. I'm going to put them on my list. Yeah, along with people like Jeremy Clarkson and Boris Johnson. Just people I'm keeping my eye on. Sean Hall and Nathan Butler wrote a song for a girl group called 3LW.
Mhm.
That was in 2001.
Oh,
You were a year old,
I
I
was.
believe,
That is
Rachel.
a
Yeah.
terrible thought.
Yeah. The song that Sean and Nathan wrote was called Players Gonna Play.
Okay.
And in 2014, Miss Taylor Swift wrote the song Shake It Off.
Yeah.
So what a court had to decide was, did Taylor Swift, who was the creator of the work Shake It Off,
Mhm.
infringe the copyright of the song Players Gonna Play? Let's listen to them one more time and then we'll be the court.
Players gonna play, 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 and the haters gonna hate, 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 baby. Players, they gon' play, and haters, they gonna hate.
Well,
Right.
Judge Rachel,
Well, personally, I think the lyrics are similar, but the whole vibe of the song, the whole like sound of the song is totally different. So
that's interesting because experts have to come into court
Mhm.
because judges can't do this, really. Especially not British judges who've
No.
all been to Oxford and Cambridge and are all 85 years old or
Yeah.
something. You have to call in musical experts who explain to the court what a protected characteristic of a song is. And the vibe is not one of them. The courts have ruled it's got to be the same lyrics, the same rhythmic features,
Okay.
the same melody, which means the same tune.
Yeah.
And the decision in this was this judge might go on my list as well. She ruled in favour of Taylor Swift,
Okay.
but said it was because the lyrics, the words, were too banal,
Okay.
BANAL, to have protection. And the lyrics were, players gonna play and haters gonna hate. I
Right.
guess. So what does banal mean? Well, banal means extremely boring because there is nothing new or original about what you're saying.
Yeah.
Don't you find lots of people's conversations are banal?
Yes.
They are, aren't they? When I take my dogs out, I hear 8 people saying, bit warm today, or you need your coat today.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example of this. I mean, people are being kind. But before I've had my 2 cups of tea, Rachel, I don't want banal conversation. So the judge said Taylor Swift wins, there is no infringement of copyright, and the reason is those lyrics are too banal for the court to protect them.
Okay.
Now, there's one more reason. Taylor Swift and her mother both said that 3LW song was played on a particular channel, part of MTV, which was very big at the time.
Yeah.
And Tiny Taylor was only 10 years old at the time, and her mum didn't allow her to watch MTV.
Okay.
So what they're saying is she could not possibly have heard that original song before she wrote her song, and the judge accepted that as true.
All right.
Rachel, you seem to have doubt about Taylor and her mum.
Never.
They-
You know I would never say anything about your idol. I
Well,
do think it's just a bit strange.
she grew up on a Christmas tree farm
Oh, saying
in a Christian family. I
yeah,
can
and
kind of believe that MTV wasn't allowed.
yeah, she's from the south of America, isn't she?
She's from Pennsylvania. She moved to Nashville when she was 14 for her music career. But
Yeah,
anyway, she
yeah,
won.
that's fine. Okay, I'll allow that.
She won, so that's all that matters.
Yeah,
Do you remember when I went to see her at Wembley Stadium in
I
London?
do.
I got into a terrible argument with I'm sorry, I'm going to say huge American woman.
Yes, I do remember that. It was a
And
highlight.
we're not going to talk about it on the podcast because I'm here in my professional capacity. But yes, that's what happened to me at Wembley Stadium. And that's enough of Taylor Swift.
Okay.
Next, are you old enough to know who the Verve are?
I do. I do know who the Verve are.
Their most famous song is Bittersweet Symphony.
Yeah.
They were sued.
I know where you're going with this.
Do you? Go
Because
on, tell
I
me.
do. Didn't they use a section of another song in the opening of their song?
They did.
But wasn't it more than they'd agreed to?
Rachel, you know this
I
already.
do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I vaguely like. There's something vaguely reminiscent about it. Yeah.
Yes. So it's famous for the video, Bittersweet
Yeah.
Symphony. It's Richard Ashcroft in 1997 walking down a London street being the coolest man on the planet. And for me, this song was the sound of the 1990s.
Yeah.
I'm immediately a time traveller when I hear the opening of Bittersweet Symphony.
Yeah.
So let's play Bittersweet Symphony alongside the song whose creators sued him.
Okay.
Now, there's no doubt at all.
There's no denying it at all.
And the Verve, the band The Verve, and Richard Ashcroft didn't try to deny it. What happened was the Verve had licensed the intellectual property of the Andrew Oldham Orchestra, who did the original song, but they'd licensed 5 notes.
Yeah.
And the reason they were sued in court for infringement of copyright was because the Andrew Oldham Orchestra claimed they'd used more than the
Yeah.
5 notes that they had permission to use. In the end, the Verve settled, but it was quite complicated because the Andrew Oldham Orchestra themselves were doing a cover version of a Rolling Stones song. So the original writers were Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
How old must he be? Like 105 by now.
Yeah.
But he's still singing. He was the original author of the music, together with Keith Richards. And the Andrew Oldham Orchestra had permission to give the song that particular arrangement. They slowed it right down.
Yeah.
The original song was called The Last Time, the Mick Jagger song, and it was played very quickly. So when this came to court, you can see it's kind of a tangled
Yes, a whole
mess
mess.
of who should pay who.
Yeah.
But for using more than 5 notes, the Verve had to pay huge amounts of money to both the Rolling Stones and the Andrew Oldham Orchestra, but they had to give their own music royalties for a period of about 20 years to the two claimants.
Wow.
So for 20 years, the Verve didn't get any royalties for Bittersweet Symphony. And in the end, in 2019, Mick Jagger and Keith Richard legally transferred the rights, the copyright to the verve, not verb. I'm such a teacher. So Bittersweet Symphony became the intellectual property of the Verve in 2019, but it was a huge explosion around the world.
Yeah.
Very successful song in 1997. So the lesson there is only use the part that you have a license for.
Yeah, don't be greedy.
Don't be greedy. Or pay more for the license
Yeah.
if you want more notes.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Next one.
Next one.
Oh,
I know. I know which one I think you're going to say.
Ed Sheeran. Now, people are always suing Ed Sheeran.
Yeah, he's had a couple of really infamous
Court cases.
court cases, yeah.
And it's always a claim that he has infringed the copyright of some other artist.
Mhm.
And I'm going to tell you what Ed Sheeran says about that. I'm saying, Ed Sheeran, because although that judge said Taylor Swift her lyrics were banal, for me, if you look at banal in the dictionary, there should be a photo of Ed Sheeran. Oh, I'm sorry. So apologies to all the Ed Sheeran fans. Please don't stop following our podcast, but I'm not keen. Shall we listen to Ed Sheeran singing a little bit of Shape of You from 2017 alongside the man who sued him, Sammy Switch, who published his song Oh Why in 2015.
Okay.
Go.
I'm in love with your body. I'm in love with your body.
They are so similar.
They are, aren't they?
They are. I think it sounds like he's slowed it, like he's moved the tempo, he's made it faster.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
there is a marked similarity, I think.
A marked similarity. Yes, significant. Well, I'm afraid to say, Judge Rachel, you've got this one wrong.
Oh,
It had to happen
it
sometime.
did. I can't write all the time.
Ed Sheeran was found not liable for copyright infringement in
Right.
the High Court in London. And the judge said, yes, there are similarities, but not substantial enough to prove infringement.
What?
Yes. And here's what Ed Sheeran said. Because, poor man, he has been sued about 8 times. And I don't think he's lost a single case. I think he's won all of them. And I'm not fond of his music, but he's without doubt an extremely hardworking,
Absolutely.
talented singer-songwriter. So it must be exhausting to have to constantly defend yourself. And he says, because our legal system encourages the two parties to settle, which it does. Go to mediation, have a negotiation, talk about this. Settling, it would involve him probably paying a good amount of money
Yeah.
to these claimants. And if there are 8 of them,
Yeah.
they're going to keep
awful.
coming.
Yeah.
So his point was, our legal system encourages people to make what he calls baseless claims.
Interesting.
Baseless meaning without legal foundation. It's like, I might as well sue Ed Sheeran because I'll get something. And he's saying, no, I'm going to defend every single case. And to finish on the topic of Ed Sheeran, Rachel, see what you think of this. He said there is in life coincidence, And it's inevitable that there will be coincidences in music because 22 million new songs go onto Spotify every year. 22 million new songs, but there are still only 12 musical notes.
I agree. I completely can understand what he means, but I think coincidences don't usually happen 8 times. I think
But maybe he's
usually
right.
there's a base for those coincidences, if you want to keep
Well,
labeling
maybe
them
he's
like that.
right though, in that when a claimant makes a claim in a United Kingdom court, they often get something, maybe half or a quarter.
Yeah, but
And employment laws like that, employment laws the same.
I
When you leave your job, you kind of think, well, I might sue my employer because the employer's always advised to settle.
yeah. I think that if that was the case, there'd be an awful lot more people taking big artists to court. And I think there's obviously cases of it, but it doesn't happen as often as it could potentially happen if money was the only incentive.
Yeah. Well, Ed Sheeran, Shape of You, the judge said that's 100% an Ed Sheeran song, and that case was thrown out of court.
Well, I think it was shaped like the other song.
Um, Robin Thicke and Pharrell Williams. I'm just looking at my little book here. The song Blurred Lines from 2013.
Yes.
Now, I'm very fond of Pharrell Williams.
Fair.
I am. Not so much Robin Thicke, but Pharrell Williams. When I see him interviewed, he makes social statements that I completely agree with. So again, I'm biased. The trouble here is the claimant was the estate of a Motown music hero,
Yes.
Marvin Gaye.
Yeah.
So Marvin Gaye died, but his estate, meaning his family, sued Robin Thicke and Pharrell Williams over the song Blurred Lines. So let's listen to those two pieces of music and see what we think. So that was Marvin Gaye's song from 1977, Gotta Give It Up. I've danced to that many a time in the olden days. And Robin Thicke and Pharrell Williams, Blurred Lines from 2013. What do you think the court said, Rachel?
Personally, I think that the similarities are a coincidence, to quote Ed.
Okay, you're quoting Ed.
Yeah, I think they're enough of a coincidence that realistically it should be fine. But I do know the outcome of this case because I grew up in
This era.
in this era of music, and I do know that they were found that it was enough copyright infringement.
Yes. The court, I think in the USA, Marvin Gaye's estate won this case. And the judge basically said, yes, there is a substantial similarity. And the interesting thing about this case is there was a jury.
That is interesting. They don't.
It
Is
is.
that because it happened in America, though?
I don't know. I'm going to have to do a Google and find out why, Rachel. But the jury unanimously found Robin Thicke and Pharrell Williams liable for copyright infringement. So do you want to explain unanimously?
They all agreed that it
All of them.
Yeah, all of them agreed that it was a significant infringement. I don't think it's a significant infringement. I think it is coincidental at best.
Well, the court awarded Marvin Gaye's estate $5.3 million plus 50% of all future royalties from that song.
I think that's terrible.
Well,
I think that's so unfair.
I found an American copyright lawyer who agreed with you, Rachel. He said, what is the same is the vibe
Yeah,
that we said earlier.
and it's not part of the no.
You can't protect the vibe. So this lawyer said this is the worst decision he's ever seen.
It's
No
so
lyrics are the
mean.
same. No lyrics are the same. There's no direct sampling like with the Verve. The melody is different. The only thing that's the same is the feel of the music. And this lawyer said that cannot be copyright. This is a terrible decision.
I completely agree.
Pharrell Williams and Robin Thicke appealed.
As they should. As they
And
deserve
this
to.
time, no jury, 3 appeal judges
Oh.
who upheld the original verdict. So Marvin Gaye's estate still wins. Now, the 3 appeal judges were split 2-1, which is why you have 3.
Yeah.
So that one that disagreed, we call that a dissenting judgment. A dissenting judgment is when you've got 3 judges, 2 of them agree and 1 doesn't. And this case became quite famous in the music community because a lot of musicians spoke up for Robin Thicke and Pharrell Williams and said, this decision will really decrease creativity. People will be afraid of being sued for copyright infringement, and this is a very bad thing for the music industry as a whole. And you agree with that, Rachel?
I do. I hate the song. I hate it.
You don't like it at
No.
all, do you?
I really dislike it. But I do think that it's individual enough that there was no reason that it needed to go that far.
Well, Marvin Gaye's family are going to get 50% of the royalties forever,
That's
unless there's
disgraceful.
another court case.
I think that's disgraceful.
Well, you know, Rachel, sometimes the judge says one thing and Rachel says another. What can we do? Are you ready for the final songs?
I am.
This is really from your era and not at
Yeah.
all from mine. Dua Lipa.
Yes.
So in 2020, she had a huge song called Levitating,
Yeah.
and she was sued by Article Sound System, who wrote a song called Live Your Life 5 years earlier in 2015. Let's listen.
I got you, moonlight, you're my starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. All night, party to sunrise now. Don't stop till you have lived your life.
So,
I'd argue that the melody is similar for this one. It's not necessarily the words, it's like the backing tracks and the sound of it.
yeah, I agree. It's again the question, is it similar enough or is it another Ed Sheeran coincidence?
Well, I happen to know the answer to this one also.
Go on.
And I know that when the verdict came out, she was sun lounging on a beach.
Of course she was. She's Dua Lipa.
Yeah.
I was probably in the supermarket buying eggs or something.
I know that it was found to be not similar enough.
It was found not to be similar enough, but just like Taylor Swift, the case was dropped in 2023. The judge said there was no evidence that Dua Lipa had access to that earlier song, meaning the court believed that Dua Lipa probably hadn't heard it
Mhm.
before she wrote her song. But she won that one. But there's a new lawsuit coming at her now for exactly the same song, just
Oh,
different grounds. So there's a musician called Bosco Cante, and he contributed to the Dua Lipa song Levitating.
interesting.
And he said she has made remixes of the song without his permission, but used his contribution.
Oh, that's
Do you want to
interesting.
know? Do you want to know what he's claiming?
Yes.
He wants damages
Mhm.
plus a percentage of her profits from these remix songs, and he wants interest added onto that,
Mhm.
backdated interest. So his total claim is $20 million. So she won that one, but
Mm.
now she's got a different one. So it seems like while we are quietly living our lives, people in the music industry are just suing each other.
Yeah, they seem like they love that sort of thing. But they must have very little drama to be able to do this sort of thing, I think. I
Yeah,
don't
they must have easy lives.
Yeah,
They must never have to take the car to get repaired or pick the
no.
children up from school
They're just like, you
because
know
they've
what
got.
we'll do today? We'll sue X, Y, and Z for copyright infringement. There you go, that'll do.
So, if any of our listeners are law students and they're thinking about being copyright infringement lawyers, it seems there's quite a good living to be had for lawyers
Yeah.
in this particular area of intellectual property law. I'm going to end just by saying Taylor Allison Swift would never do anything wrong, and please leave her alone. That's it for this week. Bye bye, Rachel.
Bye bye, Catherine.